education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make a man a more clever devil. This is a statement from C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis is considered one of the most influential Christian writers of his time. I'm sure every one of you are familiar with who C.S. Lewis is. In the next few minutes, I would like to share the encouraging story of C.S. Lewis and how through his struggles he became one of the most influential Christian writers of his time. C.S. Lewis had an interesting life. Clive Staples Lewis was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland in 1898. His parents were Albert J. Lewis and Florence Augusta Hamilton Lewis. Lewis had one brother named Warren, and C.S. Lewis's nickname throughout his childhood and his adult life was Jack. According to the C.S. Lewis Foundation website, C.S. Lewis's mother passed away from cancer when he was only 10 years old. C.S. Lewis strayed away from his childhood Christian faith. He was a student at Cherbourg House, and during that time he drew away from the Christian faith. He later attended Malvern College, where his brother Warren attended, and then eventually went to Oxford. In his later years of his life, Lewis taught at different colleges such as Magdalen College in Cambridge. Lewis was involved in World War I. He was drafted into the British Army, and C.S. Lewis reached the Somme Valley in France during his 19th birthday. He was wounded during the Battle of Arras, and one of his former roommates was killed during the battle. Lewis was converted back to Christianity. First, before he was back to being a full Christian, he considered himself a theist and believed that God did exist, and it was evident through many different things. Later, he had a discussion with J.R.R. Tolkien and Hugo Dyson on Christianity, which eventually led him back to his Christian faith. C.S. Lewis met with his friends called the Inklings for the next 16 years of his life for arguments and discussions. Members of the Inklings included J.R.R. Tolkien, Warnie, Hugo Dyson, and Charles Williams. Lewis joined the Church of England after he was converted back to Christianity. Lewis had many different situations happen throughout his later years. He married Joy Gresham at age 58. Lewis was accepted as the chair of medieval and Renaissance literature at Cambridge, and Lewis eventually died at his house called the Kilns on November 22, 1963. Lewis' writings impacted the Christian faith. Some of Lewis's works that you might be familiar with are the Chronicles of Narnia, Screwtape Letters, Four Loves, Mere Christianity, and Surprised by Joy. Lewis contributed to literary criticism, children's literature, fantasy literature, and popular theology. Lewis gave talks on the British radio about his faith very frequently, and Lewis's book, The Mere Christianity, is one of the most widely read explanations of our Christian faith, according to the pbs.org website. Lewis also had a series of books called Christian Apologetics that was very influential. C.S. Lewis loved a good argument. The good argument is what eventually led him back to the Christian faith, and throughout his lifetime he argued with many different other Christians and non-Christians. One of C.S. Lewis's quotes about his Christian faith is, "Can a mortal ask questions which God finds unanswerable? Quite easily. I should think all nonsense questions are unanswerable." And another one of C.S. Lewis's quotes about his faith is, "A man can no more diminish God's glory by refusing to worship him than a lunatic can put out the sun by scribbling the word darkness on the walls of one of his cells." These two are just some of the few quotes that Lewis had about his Christian faith and what he believed. Lewis went through many trials. His mother died when he was young. His former roommate was killed during the war. His father died when Lewis was in his early 30s, and one of Lewis's closest friends, Charles Williams, passed away as well. His wife Joy also passed away after 3 years of marriage to her from cancer. Even after Lewis went through all these trials and deaths of friends and family members in his life, he still never gave up on his faith. Lewis's works are still influential today. The Chronicles of Narnia is a popular children's series and is made into recent movies, and many people today still pay tribute to Lewis and visit his house, the Kilns, in England. C.S. Lewis is one of the greatest Christian authors of his time. He had many trials in his lifetime and still stayed true to his faith. His works are still popular among people today.